Welcome back to Advanced Skills Learning. There's one idea about AI careers that almost everyone believes, and it sounds completely reasonable at first. That if you just learn enough, the opportunities will come. More skills, more tools, more courses, eventually it will click. But after watching how people actually transition into AI roles, it becomes clear, this belief is not just wrong, it's expensive. Because it keeps people stuck in preparation mode, while expecting results that never show up. The biggest lie about AI careers is this, that learning leads directly to opportunity. It feels logical, almost obvious. If you invest time, build skills, complete courses, something should happen. And that belief feels safe because it gives you a clear path. But in reality, this assumption quietly breaks your progress. Most people never question this assumption because it sounds rational. But careers don't move based on logic alone. They move based on visibility and signals. And that's where this belief quietly starts breaking down. This belief comes from how careers used to work. You study something, gain qualifications, and then apply those skills. That model worked in more structured, slower-moving fields. But AI doesn't follow that pattern anymore. The pace, the expectations, and the hiring signals have completely changed. That model created a sense of predictability, do the work, and results follow. But AI careers are far less linear, and far more signal-driven. And applying an old model to a new system creates friction without obvious reasons. What actually happens is very different. People keep learning, new tools, new frameworks, new techniques. But nothing changes externally, no interviews, no recognition, no momentum. And over time, this creates frustration, because effort and outcome stop aligning. Over time, this creates a disconnect between effort and results. You start questioning your ability, even though the problem isn't capability. It's that the system you're relying on doesn't work the same way anymore. The trap is subtle. Preparation feels like progress. You're busy, engaged, constantly learning something new. But without exposure to real expectations, without feedback, you don't know if what you're learning actually matters. And because there's no immediate failure, the loop continues unnoticed. You don't feel stuck, you feel like you're still progressing. But that silent delay is what makes this trap so effective. Companies don't reward preparation, they reward outcomes. They look for people who can take a problem, make decisions, and deliver something meaningful. And that's a completely different signal than just having knowledge. This is why two people with similar knowledge can have very different outcomes. One communicates outcomes clearly, the other lists what they learned. And that difference changes how they're perceived immediately. The gap is not in knowledge. Most developers already know enough to get started. The gap is in applying that knowledge under constraints, with ambiguity, trade-offs, and real expectations. This is where many developers underestimate the shift required. Knowing something in isolation is very different from applying it under pressure. And that difference is what hiring processes are actually designed to detect. Adding more learning doesn't solve this problem. It actually makes it worse. Because it increases confusion, splits your attention, and delays the moment where you face real expectations. It creates the illusion that you're getting closer, while actually moving sideways. Because without applying knowledge, you're not validating anything. And unvalidated learning doesn't translate into real confidence. What actually changes your trajectory is exposure. Working on problems where outcomes matter. Where decisions have consequences. Where you get feedback, not just completion certificates. This is where your thinking starts evolving beyond theory. You begin to understand not just how things work, but when and why to use them. And that's what separates surface knowledge from real capability. This path feels uncomfortable at first. Because it's less structured, less predictable, and progress doesn't feel immediate. But this is where real growth happens, not in controlled environments, but in uncertain ones. Because now, there's no clear checklist to follow. You're forced to rely on judgment instead of instructions. And that's exactly what makes this phase feel difficult, but necessary. Most people avoid this stage. They stay in learning mode longer than necessary. Because it feels safer than stepping into uncertainty. But that delay is exactly what keeps them stuck. They convince themselves they just need a little more preparation. One more course, one more concept, one more tool. But that, one more, cycle keeps repeating without creating change. Learning is not useless. It's necessary, but it's not enough. The transition into AI doesn't happen when you finish learning. It happens when you start operating in environments where your skills are tested. Where you're forced to think, adapt, and make decisions. And that shift, from preparation to participation, is what most people misunderstand. Because it doesn't feel like a clear step, but it changes everything. The biggest lie about AI careers is comforting. It tells you that if you just keep learning, things will eventually fall into place. But real progress doesn't come from waiting for readiness. It comes from stepping into situations where readiness is tested. That's where clarity builds. That's where confidence forms. And that's where results start showing up. Not because you learned more, but because you started operating differently. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to build an AI-ready career.